run many peer groups for education or more peer coaching style groups. And I have also quite some experience in coaching where I consult students, mostly undergraduate students, on careers. So also had to learn how to listen and facilitate the conversation. If you want to connect with me, I'm Viktoria Korzhova at LinkedIn. I also recently signed up for a mentoring club that some of you might probably know. If you want to talk to me longer, feel free to book a slot there.
Nice. Thank you, Victoria. Just to mention, I forgot to mention it before. Of course, as this is an exciting topic, I would like to record it. So, but just the public part. When we go into the breakout rooms, we can do this in private window. I switch off the recording.
Are you recording already? I don't.
Yeah, I should
you are. Okay. Now. Okay. Thanks. Cool. So, what are mastermind groups, and also a bit of history to let you know that you actually know mastermind groups. As Wikipedia says, it's a peer-to-peer mentoring group. It used to help members solve their problems with input and advice from other group members. It is believed that the term was coined by Napoleon Hill in one of his books called The Law of Success. And then he described more on this in the book Think and Grow Rich. You definitely know what peer mentoring groups are because you participate in Product Peers. And we are indeed a version of a mastermind group as well. And there are more mastermind groups that you definitely heard of, like the Knights of the Round Table or the literary group of Lewis and Tolkien called Inklings, or President Roosevelt had his Brain Trust or Brains Trust. If you're curious, you can read about these groups and see how this peer mentoring actually helped in these groups and help each member succeed.
I feel very flattered to be in this line.
Yeah, maybe I should have added you to the slide, but next time I also add Product Peers. Well, all these groups share some important characteristics which are common for them. These are peers who share something in common in their background or professional work or life goals. So for Product Peers, it's definitely working in product management or being aspiring product manager. For Inklings, the literature group, this was a group of writers who discussed about their art of writing. And usually it's important that groups have something in common, otherwise it will be really difficult to have a productive interaction. But this can be very different things, and it could be about your hobby, or it could be about a goal which might look different from outside, but have something like similar things in the inside. For example, start your own business, right? And it could be a group of people who are starting very different businesses, but they still do go through the same process, and they're interested to help each other in this process. This is a support system, so it's a place where you trust that people will support you and will always be on your side. They will not judge you and they will not criticize you, but rather find a way how to help you. It's a place where you exchange experience, knowledge, and ideas. This is where having something in common really helps, because probably people know something that you're looking for. It's also a way to help you be accountable. If the group is meeting regularly over a course of time, then it's a good way where you can share your progress and say what are things that you want to do next, and then share your progress at the next meeting. Importantly, mastermind groups are not, in the classical version of peer mentoring, they're not meant to be education or coaching or therapy per se. So it's not that there is a professional coach who runs it. It's also not groups like Alcoholics Anonymous or something where people really go through psychological therapy. It's really more about getting support for people who are similar to you. How the groups usually work. It's in most cases 4 to 6 members plus moderator. A moderator is a function. It can be a rotating role, like each person in the group takes this role at the meeting, or it's a special person who is either external to the group. So sometimes groups use external moderator who is not themselves belongs to the group, but supports as a supporting function. And then this person might not have this common shared background, but just helps to moderate the sessions. And also could be an internal person when one of the group members takes it on themselves to be a moderator on a regular basis. And this is, for example, what I've done with one of my groups, that I was both a moderator and a member of the group at the same time. And groups works in two ways. One can be one-time meeting that usually lasts for 2 to 2.5 hours. And everyone comes with their questions and they are discussed, and then the group is dissolved. And this is similar to what we do at product tiers. Product tiers is a bit shorter, which is also possible, but we don't have a constant group members. It's actually each time a new people. And this is very good for getting more exposure to different ideas, to learn from other experiences and meet new people. The second version is that is the regular meetings of the same group for usually at least 3 months or more. Recommendation is to have at least 3 months, because group goes through certain stages of the group dynamics, and if you make it too short, you likely get not the full benefits of the group. Then each meeting is usually also around 2 hours, maybe every week or every 2 weeks. And this second version of the group is really good for deep work. If you want to go into more complex problems, if you want to get emotional support. Emotional support is different from psychotherapy. So people in the group will not tell you how to change your behavior necessarily, or will not give you psychological advice, but they can relate to your situation probably because they're in a similar case. And oftentimes this provides big support, that you hear other people struggled with the same thing. They survived, so you feel like, okay, you also can survive. And this is becoming possible mostly in this longer engagement when you already know people and trust them, and you can talk about more sensitive topics. So both types have advantages and are useful. Both of them are useful, I'd say. So a bit of practicalities. What are topics that are good to discuss in this mastermind groups, and how to discuss them in a productive way? And I think this famous prayer from Friedrich Christoph Oettinger is very well explains what is good to discuss. Discuss mostly things that you can change. So focus on things that are in your power. And for topics that are outside of your power, you might want to vent, get some emotional support, that people tell you, yeah, we feel you. It's rough for us as well. But this is probably not the place where people can help you directly. So overall, good topics to discuss is something that's relevant to experience of the group and their knowledge. For example, in product peers, you would usually bring up topics which are related to work of product manager. It doesn't make sense to discuss, I don't know, how to cook something, because it's not the proper place. But if you have a mastermind group of aspiring chefs, that would be ideal place to discuss something about cooking. It's good if you ask questions and give advice that is practical, so that people can actually take this knowledge and use it in practice. Touching on things that we can change, as I mentioned on the previous slide. And it's good if you ask open questions. So try not to ask questions that you actually know the answer to and you just want to kind of confirm it. That's not the very productive thing to do. Rather ask what you really want to know, where you are open to hear different opinions and different advice. And it's also a great way to brainstorm, like when you need to generate many ideas about something, even before making a decision, you just need more ideas. It's a great place to discuss it in the mastermind group, because your peers will have a different perspective on your question or problem and will give you interesting things that you did not think about. To have a productive conversation, it's oftentimes very helpful to have a moderator, and they have 3 parts of the role. As I said, the moderator mastermind group can be someone who is internal, who also participates in the discussion as a member, or can be someone external who supports, but to a little extent or not at all shares their opinion. Organizational part of the role of the moderator is to assemble the group, find place and time, like help everyone agree. And if it's a regular group, then make sure that there is a regular schedule that fits everyone. They take care of time management, look at the time, make sure that they sorry, all the parts of the scenario have a predefined time as was agreed. And I will give you an example of how this scenario can be timed. Give me a second to drink a bit.
Cheers.
And if you have some questions already, by the way, type in the chat. I'm nearing the final part, so I'm also happy to already see some questions.
I have a question actually that's more for the end, because I'm really excited about the time that whether maybe extending to 2 hours might have a high impact on the depth of our topics.
It usually might, yes, because of course different kind of questions require different length of discussion or different length of answers. So the more time there is, the usually longer the answer and discussion part might be. What is also good if you have a longer session is that you can do some warming up exercises, which are especially cool if you do a brainstorming session. It's really nice to do some warm-up exercise where people brainstorm about some weird topics. For example, the exercise I used was to show an object and tell like picture of an object and tell people, okay, imagine that you're an alien from another planet and you came to Earth and this is the first object you see. What do you think might be the purpose of this object? And please write down any crazy, stupid ideas you have. So that's one of the good exercises to warm up before the brainstorming on more reasonable topics. So yeah, longer sessions also allow you to introduce these other parts, which can help discussion be more productive. Okay, I don't see any questions so far, and let me continue. In the organizational part of the moderator's role, also taking and organizing notes might be included in the agreement of the team, but I also find this is pretty cool. So if you have a moderator who is external or who is internal but has the capacity to do that, then it's great that someone takes notes and then you actually have something at the end of the session. I will show you an example of how I organize it for when I moderate the session. Moderator should also facilitate the discussion by also maybe asking additional questions, helping to clarify questions, make sure that people stay on the topic and tell them when they are getting derailed. And make sure that everyone has their chance to speak and everyone has their time that was agreed in advance to speak. And also, moderator is good to have help you accountable. That's especially important in the longer engagement of MasterMind Group when you meet several times. And in this case, moderator makes sure that at the end of the session, each participant has a to-do. So they said that what they will do until next session. And then maybe there is also some way that this is documented. And in the next session, moderator will make sure that people report on their progress or lack of it. And there is a bit of discussion why there was progress or no progress. This is an example of how I organized the MasterMind Group. Sorry, I feel like I haven't spoken for a while, but that is not true though. So this one also from one session. It was one time meeting, which we had December last year. It was also through product people community, and we gathered together some product managers and we had this session. We used the hot seat scenario. I will tell you in a bit what it is. I prepared the agenda and explained this. This is my plan for the group. If everyone agrees, then we move on. And then I make note for each person. This is a Notion, by the way. In Notion database, I made a card for each person with a bit about them, what was their question, and what was the feedback from the group. So scenarios.
Take your time, Viktoria.
Give me
take your time. It's all good. What I found interesting, maybe to the group, have you seen the icebreaker for 20 minutes? Did you have icebreaker for 20 minutes already?
Is it a question for everybody?
Yeah.
Oh yes, yeah. Well, I did have icebreaker for 20 minutes before, sometime even more.
What was it?
A long sprint. You know, sometime going through the hypothesis, which is actually a question that I'm going to ask after, and sometime having an icebreaker to make sure that people are disconnected
Yeah.
from the previous session is quite interesting. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, actually we did. Because this is also a longer session, and it was, I think, 2.5 hours. And the group was, even though small, like 3 people, still this icebreaker that we did was called Good Gossip. And this is when, after a short introduction, people say nice things about each other. And then for each person, there is at least 5 minutes of this telling about, like speaking about them. So it takes, 15-20 minutes for 3 people. And it's also very nice because it creates this atmosphere of people feeling good about themselves and each other, and it creates more trust, um, even though the people met for the first time. And then actually this helps a lot in the discussion afterwards. So some of the popular scenarios include these two. One is common topic, another is called hot seat. Common topic is something that everyone here knows from product peers, because this is what we usually do. So we usually select one topic per room, and then this is what is discussed. Hot seat means that every participant will have a chance to ask their question or state their problem, and then get feedback on their specific question, and they don't have to fall under the same topic generally. How usually the common topic scenario works is that you decide on the topic and collect questions from everyone. So what everyone has to ask or say about this topic. Then each participant, one after another, shares their experience and tips. And then there is some feedback round where people reflect on what they learned today, what was helpful for them. In the hot seat, as I already said, one at a time explain the problem, then get feedback. And the next person goes on the hot seat and then explain the question or problem and get feedback. And then there is feedback round, which is always very helpful for people to reflect and to get more practicalities. And we also do it here on product peers, usually when we come back to the common room and everyone is writing their take-home messages.
And may I ask one question regarding the hot seats? Because you said that the mastermind groups are really good to go deep inside of topics, but the hot seats for me seemed a bit more like quick answers. So it's more like being able to answer a lot of questions instead of going deep. Am I wrong?
In the hot seat, everyone gets one question. And then depending on how long is the session, each person might get 20 minutes for themselves. And it's 5 minutes explaining the question and 15 minutes of other people giving feedback and advice. And this is also what I did in this group that I showed. What does it say? Hot seat discussion of ideal questions, approximately 1 hour. So we spend 20 minutes per person. So it can be longer.
Thank you.
I prepared a scenario with division of time for us to try to fit in half an hour session though. So my suggestion for common topic is that you go for 30 minutes, where first 5 minutes is to decide on topic and collect questions. And I think we can actually prepare this in advance, as we usually do at product peers. So topic is known, but then you can spend a bit of time in the group to collect what are the questions of each person in the group around this topic, and then each one of them shares their tips and experience, 5 to 7 minutes each, depending on how many people there are. And then also do a feedback round, where today I think we can combine it with a feedback round to the moderator of the session. And the hot seat scenario would be that there's 6-7 minutes for each person, very quick. So the questions have to be short, but then you have 2 minutes to explain your question, and then 5 minutes for all other people to give their tips. Again, they have to be rather quick to give very specific advice, or maybe specific resources that they recommend to look at this further, and then the feedback round. So what we will do now we are still rather small. So we could also try to do a hot seat all together, but this will then take us a bit more time maybe than we want. Or we do 2 small groups. Or Richard and myself, we stay out of it and other people make a group.
That sounds like a good idea as well. So that we are just listeners, or what do you mean, Elrich?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask a question. So thank you so much, Viktoria. I mean, we all know what to expect when you present, so it's always informative. Thank you. So Viktoria,
Thanks,
I wanted to know about the numbers, because you see, as opposed to product peers, Richard did a wonderful job to set, the vision, the mission, and the guidance, and the platform for us to gather together. So for numbers, first, is the mastermind need to be absolutely those numbers, or it can be extended? That's the first question. And if the numbers are the way they are, when you start a mastermind, how do you do the hypothesis testing to make sure that everybody joining is aligned to the outcome that everybody wants to achieve? Thank you.
Yeah, that's a very good question. Thanks, Albert. So first one is numbers can be changed depending on how long the session is that you plan. My recommendation, if it's a session that you just do once, then it's recommended 2.5 hours in total, and then you divide time by number of people. And the number of people I would recommend have up not more than 6, because it's more than 6, then it's getting more difficult. Longer than 2.5 hours is also getting difficult because people get tired. And if it's 2.5 hours, probably you need to make a short break in the middle. But generally, yeah, you can decide up to your needs and up to the wishes of the group. Just have in mind that people have limited capacities physically and how much they can keep their attention on the topic and be engaged. As for how you assemble a group, that's a very good question. I think there are 2 approaches, I would say. One approach is do something like we do at Product Peers, where you have a relatively short engagement and you just gather people on the topic of interest, and then most probably to speak for half an hour, they will have something in common, and all of them will behave decently and polite, so there will be no conflicts. And this is pretty safe, just to say, we have this topic, everyone who's interested and has something to share about this, come. So like product management, everyone comes. If you are organizing a group that should work together for longer, then it's definitely very important to make sure that people are aligned in their expectations, in what is the goal for the group, and also on the personal level. And what I did is I did a questionnaire where I asked different questions about people's goals, but also their attitude towards problems or difficult situations, to see if I have a feeling that these are the people with whom I could work and who match to each other. Some other moderators also do a preliminary call before they accept person to the group. They do a call to talk through this. Sometimes they also help this person to formulate the goal for the group to make sure that, yeah, everyone is aligned.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Thank you, Viktoria. Thank you for the sharing. I was just thinking of a scenario that is a kind of a real life scenario when in a team setting and someone just speak more than others, and especially dominates the first 15 minutes of a meeting, and the rest of the dynamic just changed. And as a moderator, well, how would you approach this scenario?
Yes. So first of all, I would try to prevent this, and a moderator can prevent this by preparing an agenda and making everyone aware of it and actively agree in it at the beginning. So you tell people, here's the agenda. Even better if you send it in advance, but still at the meeting say, remember, this is our agenda. Is there any disagreement? If no, we will stick to the agenda, and I will remind you if we are being derailed, because it's important that we cover all the topics. And then you have a tool in your hand to tell people, sorry, I will have to cut you here because our agenda, remember, let's move on. And then it's also a bit of training on how to, it's hard to explain in simple words. It's more about that you try to tame the person and you give other people a chance to speak by proactively asking them, and what do you think? What do you have something to add? What would be your opinion? Also maybe inviting the shyer people to speak first before they are scared off by others. This comes a bit with practicing and growing your confidence that you can do this. But also I think if having your mindset that you are a moderator and it's your role to help this discussion be productive, even if your boss and if your boss is making it unproductive, you have the right to cut them sometimes. And even though it might be a bit scary, again, try to prepare them that this will happen, and then I think you will also feel more in your right to do that.
Makes sense. Yeah, makes sense. Thank you.
Sure. I think let's move on to the group work. Otherwise, we're not having enough time. So my suggestion,
I would switch off the recording then, so that we can talk about our topics in private.